New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani is a man who defies the odds. His main opponent in the Democratic Party's primary, disgraced former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, was backed by big real estate, corporate super PACs, and the same billionaires that backed Donald Trump. Given the name recognition and funding of his opponent, Mamdani was given a tiny chance of winning the primary, but he achieved a political upset for the ages when he won the primary by double digits. Cuomo was insistent that NYC needed a mayor that could stand up to Trump, but his links to Trump's backers really undermined his pitch. And now it seems he stopped caring about the optics of being linked to Trump, however, as the business elite of New York City are openly trying to forge an alliance between those on the right who oppose Mamdani's democratic socialist politics. The triumvirate hoping to stop him consists of aforementioned Cuomo, Republican hopeful Curtis Sliwa, and current Mayor Eric Adams. Cuomo and Adams are running on separate independent tickets after losing to Mamdani in the Democratic primary. But in a winner-takes-all first-past-the-post election, they are splitting the anti-Mamdani vote. But an unlikely figure swooping in to try and shrink the field to prevent that. Politico are reporting that Eric Adams has been offered a post in the Trump administration, potentially the Department of Housing, if he were to drop out of the NYC mayoral race, to try and shorten the odds for Andrew Cuomo, as Adams is polling in last behind him and Curtis Sliwa. This is a tacit admission of a whole host of things. Firstly, it shows that Cuomo was lying about standing up to Trump. He is actually seen as the most favourable candidate to be mayor by the Trump admin themselves. Trump is famous for wanting his own way, and if he thought Cuomo would be a bigger roadblock than Mamdani, there is no way he would want to engineer, or at least try to engineer, a Cuomo victory. Secondly, it shows that for all the talk of the right wing about relishing the idea of a Mamdani victory, as it would prove unpopular for Democrats once the policies were enacted, and what they would assume would be a failure politically, in reality, they're actually most scared of Mamdani winning, in case he is successful, which I believe he will be, as it would shatter the political consensus and demonstrate that there is a better way. Here's how Mamdani responded to those revelations.
I don't care about who we will face in November. We'll beat them all. It's the question of how we can actually stand up for this city, and the fact that I'm here talking about other Democrats. I mean, what do these people actually stand for besides power? That's the question that I have for them.
Where is the outrage from the vote blue no matter who crowd? Well, turns out that was also always a lie. We have covered already how many Democratic lawmakers have refused to endorse Mamdani, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. But some have gone a little bit further. Here's Representative Tom Swatsey from New York's 3rd with some strong words for the Democratic Socialists.
So now you have Hakeem Jeffries. He's the House Minority Leader who'd love to be the head of the
And
House.
I think he should be. He's fantastic.
But let's ask this question. What does he do about Zohran Mamdani? Does he endorse him, or does that hurt him in trying to take control in 2026?
Listen, I have not talked to him about it recently. I don't think he should endorse Zohran Mamdani. I think it would be bad for the Democratic Party nationwide.
But President Trump wants him to be the nominee. He wants to run against him.
Of course President Trump wants that.
He wants to make him the face of the Democratic Party.
We are democratic capital. Capitalism has raised more people out of poverty than any other system in the history of the world.
But people are buying
It has created more innovation. And socialism has failed everywhere throughout the United States of America. Zohran Mamdani and other democratic socialists should create their own party, because I don't want that in my party. I believe in free enterprise. I believe in democracy. I believe in the democratic ideals. Do I think there's a problem with affordability? Absolutely, there's a problem with affordability. We have to make things more affordable, but we have to also support the police. We have to reduce costs. We have to reduce taxes in New York State to make us more competitive with the rest of the country.
Now, he's very clear. Regardless of what Democratic Party voters want, he thinks that they must be ignored in favour of what he deems to be an acceptable candidate, and that his party should not include those who disagree with him politically. He's also wrong on practically all counts too. Firstly, the Eric Adams revelations show that Trump does in fact not want Mamdani as mayor. Secondly, socialism hasn't failed every time it's been tried in America. It's never been tried in America. Even if you take Mamdani's policies in the abstract, they're closer to like FDR-era New Deal social democracy than the socialism of the 20th century anyway. And the New Deal era was one of the most prosperous ones in American history. Plenty of other capitalist countries have social policies such as the ones Mamdani is advocating for: free transport in Luxembourg, universal childcare in the Nordic countries, and Norway even has more patents per capita and billionaires per capita than the USA, despite significantly higher taxes and social ownership. Free enterprise and social programs have never really been mutually exclusive. I mean, even socialist Yugoslavia had free cooperative enterprise. But at the end of the day, this is all just artifice for Swatsey. His comments actually underline that it is the corporate capture of democracy that he represents. Both sides of the political establishment in America are desperate. They're desperate for Mamdani to lose. Not because they're scared of him failing, but because they're scared of him succeeding, which would firmly move the dial away from the corrupt super PAC funded elite towards a politics for the many and not the few. Dalia, just quickly to finish off, what do these interventions say about the strength of Mamdani's campaign?
I think that a lot of the establishment, I'll call them sort of the establishment centre, let's say, thought that the left electoral vehicles were dead in the water. And Mamdani's campaign, Mamdani's success shows that it's not. And I think Mamdani, I am concerned by the possibility of them being able to consolidate an anti-Mamdani vote. I have now lived through too many examples of an electoral left that have played and won by the rules being sabotaged at the last minute by the extreme centre, by the establishment centre. Bernie Sanders, for example, winning the New Hampshire primary, and yet somehow, after a couple of calls by Obama, we see Biden, who was fourth in the primaries, shooting to victory. That is unprecedented. But when it comes to stopping the left from gaining electoral power that they have won fair and square, there is nothing that is unprecedented. And to kind of quickly summarize the lens that I think we need to understand this through, because many of us, and we are seeing this happening in the UK now, we're seeing Ed Balls looking at Zach Polanski with more anger and hatred than I've ever seen him look at a Tory or Nigel Farage. We are seeing with Keir Starmer. The one thing that has been consistent about Keir Starmer, the only thing that Keir Starmer has been consistent and principled on, is crushing the left. And so why? Surely if you consider yourself to be centre-left, you could see people who are maybe more further left as being part of a broader coalition. Why is there more strength against the more further left people from the establishment centre left? It's because I think since the end of the Cold War, since the fall of the Soviet Union, since the kind of post-Reagan Thatcher moment where you have this neoliberal consensus, where the consensus around neoliberal capitalism is the most important thing that has to be maintained. It's more important than democracy. It's more important than everyone being housed. It's more important than people having their basic material needs met. The neoliberal consensus is more important than anything. And within that context, the establishment centre, their primary purpose, whether it's Keir Starmer, Tony Blair, Barack Obama, that establishment centre left, the primary and sole purpose that they have is to crush the left. That is their mandate. That is the basis on which they get funding from billionaires. That is the basis that they get, kind of enabled and legitimized by the press. The way that they are able to gain power is through that contract of promise that we will fight the left and crush the left wherever we can, because we are going to occupy similar institutions, whether it's the Labour Party, the Democrat Party, union within some major trade unions. We are going to make sure that the left get nowhere near, or anyone who wants to disrupt that neoliberal centre, that neoliberal consensus. We will make sure, we will do the bludgeoning for you. We will make sure they will get nowhere near electoral power, even when they play and win fair and square by the rules. And that is because the neoliberal consensus is more important than democracy. It is more important than anything else.
Exactly. It's those corporate connections. It is the interests of the people who they serve truly, which they feel like they need to have access to be able to win, that is more important than realities of the democratic mandate of the people. You're 100% correct. 100% correct.